Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard will have to wait until next Friday to find out if he will be released on bail. He's currently in a Manitoba jail facing sex trafficking and racketeering charges in the United States. Nygard's legal team presented their bail plan in court Thursday. It included a promise of $20,000 worth of military-grade cameras to monitor Nygard 24 hours a day through a security company that would be installed at the Winnipeg home where he would be staying if released on bail. The plan also includes security guards to live on site in the home and keep an eye on Nygard and report him to authorities if he tries to flee. Jay Prober and Richard Wolfson suggest this should satisfy the court to grant Nygard bail, adding keeping him in jail for months, awaiting further trial during COVID, is a serious risk to his life. Scott Farlinger, a lawyer for the Attorney General of Canada, said they still have concerns over two of Nygard's sureties who would be responsible for making sure bail conditions were followed. If bail is granted, Farlinger is asking for additional conditions, including an electronic ankle monitor and curfew checks. Farlinger says Nygard's actual financial situation still remains unclear. Nygard was arrested in Manitoba under the Extradition Act and faces 9 counts in the Southern District of New York. Justice Sean Greenberg says she expects to have a decision in this case by next week. In Winnipeg, Mark Neufeld, City News.
I'm sure by this point everyone knows who Jeffrey Epstein was and the horrendous things that he did. But what if I was to tell you there's a Canadian man who makes Epstein look like a Boy Scout in comparison? This man is real and his name is Peter Nygard. Never heard of him? That's okay. It seems that the media has been pretty preoccupied with a single murder case as of late. So much so that this complete terror of a person has mostly went under the radar. But after I describe the unthinkably vile and disgusting crimes this man has done, you will understand why he's been dubbed the Billionaire Vampire. Peter Nygard is a Finnish-Canadian fashion executive, and according to Wikipedia, he founded Nygard International, the largest producer of women's apparel in Canada. It was liquidated in 2020 after the arrest of Peter. It formerly had over 1,400 employees. It was initially founded as a sportswear manufacturer and in 1978 expanded into the US, becoming an international corporation. At one point they had a store in Times Square and were even promoted by members of the Real Housewives of New York. This was not a small company by any means, and all of this newfound wealth and success led Peter Nygard to do some very disturbing and deplorable acts that he is still being discovered for. So now that you know who this man is and how he became wealthy, it's time to find out how he is worse than Epstein. On February 25th, 2020, the FBI raided Nygard's New York offices in connection with his arrest for sex trafficking, sexual assault, and racketeering. Later, it was found that many of the sex trafficking charges involved minors. This is very disturbing, and it seems he had connections to Jeffrey Epstein, but even more disturbing than this is that according to Chris Hansen in an interview he gave to YouTuber DJ Vlad, which I'll link in the description, Peter would have sex with these women, impregnate them, and then force them to have abortions. Once these abortions were complete, the stem cells would then be collected and turned into what he called Nygard K, an anti-aging compound that he and many famous people, including Michael Jackson, George W. Bush, and even Al Pacino, would inject to stay young.
Where's that delivery of new fetuses? I'm feeling weak again.
Here's the new shipment, sir.
Hello?
This is a terrifying rabbit hole that was only discovered because of a dispute that occurred between Peter Nygard and his neighbor in the Caribbean, Mr. Louis Bacon. The FBI wasn't even looking into any of these allegations before this huge blowout with his neighbor. His neighbor is actually the one who instigated the investigation in the Caribbean. In 2005, Nygard attempted to solve a parking overflow problem at Nygard K by laying down a 15 by 20 foot concrete slab on Louis Bacon's property. Bacon responded to this, suing Nygard and obtaining a court injunction to remove it. 2 years later, in 2007, Bacon installed industrial-grade speakers at the edge of his property and pointed them at Nygard's house at night due to Bacon's complaints of noise at Nygard's house. In summer 2010, Bacon's house was raided by 11 Bohemian police officers, leading to the confiscation of the speakers. Bacon claimed it was the work of Nygard, a claim he denied. It has been said that Nygard used fake news sites and YouTube videos to smear Bacon as a person who ran an international drug smuggling operation, was a member of the KKK, and having been charged with insider trading and being involved in murdering the Point House caretaker Dan Tuckfield, after commissioning him to set fire at Nygard K. In January 2015, Bacon filed a defamation lawsuit against Nygard over these claims. Moving forward, on November 24th, 2019, again according to Wikipedia, began investigating rape charges made against him by said neighbor, by Mr. Louis Bacon. All of the alleged victims were under 16 years old. On February 13th, 2020, 10 women filed a class action lawsuit against Nygard in New York, alleging he had assaulted them in his Bohemian residence. These attacks occurred between 2008 and 2015. They also alleged that he maintained a sex trafficking ring. On February 14th, 2020, it was reported that the Bohemian police were investigating these cases. February 25th, 2020, his New York corporate headquarters were raided in connection to these claims. On April 20th, 2020, 36 new women joined the class action suit, bringing the total number of assault charges to 46 minors. Finally, on December 15th, 2020, Peter Nygard was arrested in Winnipeg for extradition to the USA for the trafficking ring. He is still waiting extradition, and this case just gets worse and worse, and I'm very surprised that it has not had more of a media presence, as it seems to be on a sort of media blackout. For as heinous as these acts are and the amount of power this man had, why is it not a bigger story or more well known than it is? This is the type of real horror that exists in the real world and needs to be exposed for the greater good. I am glad that I could bring this to you. This truly did sicken me when I first heard about it, and it goes to show you that true vampires do exist and to be careful. Please have a good one. This has been Jimmy J. Good night, everyone.